In recent weeks, a well-known Colombian music artist, Yaisen Jimenez, reportedly spoke openly about a recurring nightmare that refused to leave him alone. Night after night, the same vision returned, an aircraft failing mid-flight, panic inside the cabin, and a sense that the ending was already written. Friends and colleagues noticed a change. The 34-year-old performer appeared increasingly withdrawn, burdened by fear he could not fully explain. In private conversations, he admitted that the dream felt less like imagination and more like a warning. In some versions, he tried to alert the crew. In others, the outcome could not be changed. News reports, flashing lights, and headlines announcing a disaster appeared even within the dream itself. On January 10, 2026, a twin-engine Piper Navajo departed from Paipa Airport in Colombia's Tundama province. On board were the musician, members of his band, and the flight crew. Moments after takeoff, witnesses on the ground saw the aircraft lose control and come down rapidly. The incident left no survivors among the 6 people on board. Only afterward did Jimenez's earlier words resurface. In recorded interviews weeks before the flight, he spoke of receiving 3 signs he failed to understand in time. He sought professional help, struggled with anxiety, and attempted to silence the fear. It did not work. Today, his story is shared not only as a tragedy, but as a chilling reminder. Sometimes, the mind senses danger long before reality catches up, and not every warning arrives loudly enough to stop what is coming. A maternity hospital in the Russian city of Novokuznetsk became the focus of national attention after a deeply disturbing series of events during the New Year holiday period. Over a short span of days, 9 newborns passed away under medical care. Official reports indicate that several of the infants were receiving intensive treatment at the time. The pattern raised immediate concern among health authorities and investigators. The facility was placed under quarantine, officially due to seasonal illness precautions. Behind closed doors, inspections began. A criminal investigation was launched to determine whether procedural failures or sanitation violations played a role. Hospital leadership was temporarily removed from duty while documentation, equipment, and staff actions were reviewed. A court later ordered the maternity ward closed for 90 days to allow repairs and safety improvements. Parents across the region now ask the same unanswered question: how could a place meant to welcome life fall so suddenly silent? For months, something unsettling unfolded at Mount Moriah Cemetery in Philadelphia, one of the city's oldest burial grounds. Visitors and nearby residents reported strange nighttime activity among the aging mausoleums. Shadows moved where no one should be. Sounds echoed between headstones long after the gates were closed. At first, the reports were dismissed as imagination. Then investigators confirmed the unthinkable. Historic burial sites had been disturbed. Human remains, some over a century old, were missing. After a prolonged search, authorities detained a man seen leaving the cemetery late at night carrying tools and a heavy bag. Searches of his residence and a rented storage space uncovered more than 100 bones and skulls taken from the site. No clear motive has been established. Officials have not disclosed what the individual intended to do with the remains. Mount Moriah is the final resting place for hundreds of thousands. Now, its tree-lined paths carry an added weight. The sense that even the dead were no longer left in peace. A quiet coastal community in Ecuador awoke to a scene that quickly spread fear far beyond its shoreline. In the fishing village of Puerto Lopez, residents discovered a disturbing display along the beach. Objects believed to be connected to multiple individuals were found suspended from wooden posts, accompanied by a written warning. Authorities believe the display may be linked to organized groups seeking to send a message. Law enforcement sealed off the area and launched an immediate investigation. The beach, usually filled with tourists and fishermen, fell silent. Locals described an atmosphere of unease, as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. Officials continue working to identify those involved and determine responsibility. Increased patrols remain in place as the community struggles to process what was left behind. Once again, a familiar truth echoes across the coastline. Sometimes, danger does not hide, it announces itself. Doctors in the Russian city of Ekaterinburg are being credited with what many now call a medical resurrection. Emergency teams rushed a man to City Clinical Hospital number 23 after a critical incident involving a firearm-related injury to the chest. Multiple projectiles had entered his body, one of them lodging dangerously close to the heart. Internal pressure rapidly increased, and his condition deteriorated within minutes. During surgery, the situation escalated beyond standard protocols. The patient's heart stopped, not once, but twice. With no time to spare, surgeons manually stimulated the heart, maintaining circulation through direct compression while removing the foreign object and repairing the damage. For nearly 40 minutes, the man remained in a state doctors classify as clinical death. Blood transfusions were administered. The operating room worked against time itself. Against expectations, the heart resumed a stable rhythm. After more than a week under assisted breathing in intensive care, the patient was transferred to a general ward. Recovery is ongoing, but the outcome has already been described as extraordinary. Medical professionals emphasize that such cases are exceptionally rare. For many who followed the story, the question lingers quietly. Where was he during those minutes when his heart was still, and what, if anything, brought him back? The next story comes from Turkey and challenges the certainty of official conclusions. On January 2, 2022, Melek Sert was hospitalized due to complications during the 5th month of pregnancy. After an emergency procedure, medical staff informed the father, Hasan Sert, that the child had not survived. An official report was issued. The family was given the infant, prepared for burial. While traveling to the cemetery, Hasan noticed something unexpected. A faint sound, then movement. The child's chest appeared to rise. The journey changed instantly. The infant was rushed back to the hospital and placed in intensive care, where he remained for 1 week. Despite efforts by doctors, the child passed away days later. The family filed a complaint, stating that basic checks had not been performed initially. Authorities later closed the case, saying no fault was found. Hasan continues to appeal the decision. He maintains that if proper procedures had been followed, his child might be alive today, already 3 years old. The case has reopened discussions about certainty, timing, and how close life can linger to its edge. Sarah and Tom Hawkins moved into a quiet family house with their 2 children, 11-year-old Emma and 8-year-old Joshua. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but within weeks, Sarah began mentioning strange disturbances to friends. At night, footsteps echoed on the staircase while everyone slept. Doors closed on their own, even though the air inside the house was still. Personal items would disappear and later reappear in unfamiliar places. Months passed, and the activity intensified. Objects fell from shelves without warning. Heavy knocks sounded from the kitchen walls late at night. Wet footprints appeared across the floor, as if someone had walked barefoot through the house, though no one had. In 2020, the first major incident occurred. During a family dinner, a heavy plate slid off the table on its own and shattered near the younger child. No one had touched it. Soon after, the family moved away, believing the disturbance was tied to the house. It was not. In the new apartment, strange events followed them. Children's toys activated by themselves at night. Shadows appeared briefly in mirrors. Marks surfaced on the walls, shaped like words, but impossible to read. In 2021, Tom Hawkins lost his life in a sudden road incident. Investigators noted that his car sharply turned on an empty road, as if avoiding something unseen. 1 year later, Emma passed away quietly in her sleep. Medical specialists could not determine a cause. Neighbors later recalled the girl saying weeks earlier, "He told us we weren't supposed to leave." In 2024, Sarah also passed away. Before her death, she left a voice message for a close friend: "If you hear this, don't go back to that house." It follows those who saw it. Authorities found no explanation, but the pattern left behind continues to disturb those familiar with the case. Footage from Brazil shocked viewers nationwide.
Eita, caralho! Esse cara não vai fazer nada, vai fazer nada.
Porra nenhuma, mano. Olha espremendo lá os pés dele lá.
Meu Deus, desceu, tá vendo?
Ai, meu Deus, olha. Olha, meu. Ai, meu Deus, pra que subiu ali?
Como é que é? Olha, já pegou ela.
Ai, meu Deus, pra que
Ai, filho.
Já pegou ele, já pegou.
A 19-year-old man entered a restricted zoo enclosure after climbing a tall barrier. He descended into the area and approached a large predator. Staff responded immediately, but the incident ended within moments. The zoo in João Pessoa was temporarily closed during the investigation. Officials remind visitors that barriers exist not as decoration, but as the final line between safety and irreversible outcomes. A troubling event unfolded in the Russian city of Kirov. A 67-year-old retired man was stopped inside a store over an unpaid item of minimal value. According to reports, a confrontation followed involving store staff and security. Witnesses state the man was restrained while waiting for authorities. When officers arrived, he was unresponsive. Medical examination later revealed an existing heart condition. However, investigators opened a case related to unintended loss of life. The man's daughter stated that those involved continued working at the store and that the family received no apology or acknowledgement. The investigation remains active, raising concerns over restraint practices and responsibility in everyday conflicts. The final story tonight comes from Ecuador and remains unexplained. Journalist Marlon Torres was traveling at night from Xuxafindi to the province of El Oro. The road was empty, the air calm, visibility clear. After passing a toll booth, a warning signal activated inside his vehicle, the system that detects passengers in the back seat. First on one side, then the other. Marlon was alone. He checked the rear seats. Empty. Moments later, the air inside the car turned cold. A wave of nausea followed. At a nearby fuel station, the indicators vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. He called his partner and continued driving. Less than a minute later, both indicators activated again, simultaneously. Marlon accelerated, focused only on reaching his destination. Upon arrival, he noticed something unsettling. The coins he had tossed earlier now sat neatly stacked on the driver's door. Days later, a full inspection found no technical issues. The system was functioning normally. Marlon has never claimed to know what happened that night. He only insists on one detail: he was not alone.